figured I'd jump on real quick and kind of talk about my match or my nationals prep week so far. And kind of how I feel about my match prep week. Or I guess I'll just talk about today, since today's really fresh. I just finished practicing. I had about 4 hours on the range. I can't tell you how much I shot. I just shot a lot. But I did not practice anything. I mean, not a single round inside of 20 yards today. I even went out to 100 yards today. I went 20, 30, 40, 50, out to 100 yards today and did some practice. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time at 100 yards because we probably won't see that. So to me, I'm a big believer in don't waste your time on things that you're probably not going to see. So in other words, if we were not going to see one-handed or strong hand, weak hand for that match, I'm probably not going to practice it too much. Don't get me wrong, I practice that stuff, but I don't, if there's match prep, like it's like kind of doing surrender draws. If I'm not going to have a single surrender draw in the match, why practice it? Why waste your time doing things you're not going to actually use at that match? And again, this is match prep. This isn't practice. This is match prep time. So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about how I feel like, unfortunately, it feels like I got my ass kicked today at practice, even though I didn't. Even though I had a great practice, I shot a ton of alphas. I had really good shot calling today, probably some of the best shot calling I have ever had. Like, I am starting to really understand shot calling. Just what the what it does, what the gun does. If it reacts something weird, I know it's not supposed to do that. So I call that shot. I mean, to the point where I know exactly where it is. And if I do miss and I happen to hit the paper, it's right where I thought I was going to miss it. So it was worth the makeup shot. But because I shot so much today, I really feel like I sucked, right? Because overall, I made a ton of mistakes. Like, I had a lot of, I didn't have any penalties. I didn't have any real like no shoots or mics or anything big, but I shot a Charlie's or a Delta, and like, I would consider anything outside of the A at this point a penalty for me. And that's like the mindset change that I've had recently. So it's like chasing that, or a makeup shot is a penalty to me, like a major screw up. And I had quite a few makeup shots today that some is because of the speed that I'm trying to push and the distance, right? Like, my average today was 20 to 25 yards. Like, again, if I average everything on how much I shot, the biggest pile of brass was at 20 yards. So if I'm standing at 20 for the majority of it and I'm trying to shoot 20-yard targets as if they were 10 yards or 15-yard targets, and I'm really pushing speed, you're gonna throw extra shots because of the pace that you're trying to keep, right? So I feel like one of my biggest weaknesses in all the years of nationals that I have shot has been the long distance, right? The confidence in the distance, like not attacking long distance, really shooting long distance targets like boom, boom, and like really settling for a perfectly calm dot instead of red dot alpha, let's go, trust it, get your ass out the door and get to the next one. So this year I have put almost all of my efforts into long distance training. Like, I have really focused heavily on long distance. Now, that has made a giant difference in my shooting, like massive difference in my shooting at all distances now. So now when I'm at 10 yards, it's like a handshake away. If it's a 15-yard target, it's a handshake away. You start giving me 20, 25-yard, 30-yard targets, I'm like, man, let's rip. Let's like really get on it. And I've noticed that's kind of what separated me the last couple of years against the best shooters. Those guys are very confident in long distance shooting, especially the guys that win the match. Not just the guys that are there or close. It's the guys that are very confident in long distance shooting, that don't take a bunch of makeup shots, that just hammer two and know they're there. And not only that, but get alphas. They're not just getting hits, right? They're not accepting hits. Hits aren't the answer if you want to win match. You have to go after those alphas. It's interesting though, because I walk away from this practice finding so many positives, but still have that little negative in the back of my mind thinking, man, but if I didn't talk to myself after a practice like this, I would definitely fall into the trap of looking at the negative more than the positive. I mean, out of 1,000 rounds today, I probably had 50 Charlies, right? Like 50 Charlies. That's not a lot of Charlies for 1,000 rounds. So it just feels like it, because you're trying to correct those. You're trying to get all alphas all the time. You're always looking for the cleanup shot, or, the other thing about those 50 rounds that I had those Charlies on, the big thing to me about those Charlies was that I had an answer for those Charlies, right? So the next run, I would clean those Charlies up. It was never just go out, shoot rounds, throw some bad hits, and then go, oh man, I didn't do good. It was always an answer. My grip wasn't where it was supposed to be. Those little things, you start to get fatigued. Your brain just doesn't work the same speed. You're not visually working the eyes like you're supposed to. All those little things start to catch up as you get tired. And those are the things that you have to identify as you go into these bigger practices. So again, trying not to allow that negative to take over. And again, it's a lot of people hear me say something about the bad, but there's always a positive to follow. So you have to remember to listen to what I'm saying. There is always going to be negative at practice, but I guarantee you there's way more positive things to take out of that practice than there are negative. And that's how you actually learn. You take those negatives and you turn them into positives. And the way you do that is by learning from every single mistake. You don't just make a mistake and go, I sucked, or I didn't do well. You find that mistake and you go, oh. All right, man, the next run, I'm going to lock in that grip. I got to really focus on pressing into that gun a little bit better here. Different pressures here. Oh man, I threw a Charlie on that entry. I didn't see that target when I looked. I didn't even move my eyes. I just slung the gun over there and shot at it. Oh man, I didn't stop on that piece of steel. That's why I had a makeup shot, and I shouldn't have done that. These are all the things. This is how you get better in this sport, is little things. Every single time you practice, it's one thing at a time, and that's how you get better. All right, guys, if you have any questions, hit me up in those comments, and I'll see you on the range.